This is probably going to be my story of the day because this touches a lot of nerves as far as I'm concerned. Story has to do with the National Action Network, Hillary Clinton speaking, and Armstrong Williams making comments. Now, I have no love for Armstrong Williams. Matter of fact, I really have listened to him, and I just don't like him. Okay, and I'm being straight out and upfront with my feelings about Armstrong Williams. I got no love for Dr. Ben Carson, but I believe that it was Armstrong Williams that screwed up his campaign because Dr. Ben Carson, even though I don't subscribe to a lot of the things that he says, he did have the people working in his campaign that were able to do the job for him. And when Armstrong Williams jumped in there and started throwing his weight around with the permission of Dr. Ben Carson, that's when he started dropping like a rock. Okay, but anyway, I'm going to play this clip, which is basically Hillary Clinton. She's going to speak before the National Action Network, and Armstrong Williams is going to make some comments. Now, I have to be honest, some of the things that he said, I absolutely have to agree with. So we're going to pick it up from here.
Another story making headlines this morning is Senator Bernie Sanders scheduled to speak at the 25th Annual National Action Network Conference. Well, he is scheduled to speak at the 25th Annual National Action Network Conference in New York City. This comes just one day after former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton spoke at the conference. But before she got up to speak, Armstrong Williams, Dr. Ben Carson's business manager, warned the crowd about falling for fluff. Here's a recap of their comments from last night.
As I have said many times, white Americans need to do a much better job of listening when African Americans talk about the seen and unseen barriers you face every day. We need to recognize our privilege and practice humility rather than assume our experiences are everyone else's experiences.
We sit here, you hear the race speeches because they feel that's what you want to hear today. Everything in America is not always about race.
We have to demonstrate a sustained commitment to building opportunity, creating prosperity, and righting wrongs, not just every 2 or 4 years, not just when the cameras are on and people are watching, but every single day. I have worked on these causes all my adult life. I'm going to keep going at it no matter what.
Make these people earn your vote. If it's Donald Trump, so be it. If it's Bernie Sanders, so be it. Do not allow the Clintons and the establishment to waltz in here and wave their hand and everything is okay. Let them earn your vote.
I'm going to do everything I can to take on the gun lobby and to try to save lives, the lives of the children of women like this and the sisters and the brothers and the daughters and the sons of so many others. And I will work as hard as I can as your president to keep faith with them for police reform and demanding a criminal justice system that actually delivers justice.
I don't mind the hisses, because you know the truth when you hear it. Make them earn your vote. If you talk about race, they play the race card too, as they did in South Carolina against Barack Obama. Don't get caught up in the short memory. This is a business. They'll say whatever they need to say and do whatever they need to do to get elected.
If we're going to ask African Americans to vote for us, we cannot take you or your vote for granted. We can't just show up at election time and say the right things and think that's enough. We can't start building relationships a few weeks before a vote.
Now, before they give their commentary, I got to tell you, I am 100% pissed off, okay? Because exactly what Hillary Clinton said that they shouldn't do is exactly what the Democrats do. They show up every goddamn 4 years pandering and begging for the black vote, and what the hell do we have to show for it? So Armstrong Williams is right. You know, he's an asshole, but he was right. Because they waltzed into our communities and to meetings like the national network, and spout all of their platitudes and how what should be done, and how we should, not even how we should act, how they should act. But then after they come out of those meetings and the elections occur, what the hell actually happens? Not a goddamn thing. Okay, so there needs to be accountability. Okay, and I have preached that, I preached that. We need to vote, okay? We need to do our duty as far as juries are concerned so that our people can get justice, okay? We need to hold the lower level politicians, i.e. city council, aldermans, mayors, whatever, we need to hold them accountable. We need to hold our governors and state representatives accountable. We need to hold our Congress people, House of Representatives and Senators accountable, and we need to hold our president accountable. Now again, the black community, quote unquote, is only, they claim 13% of the population. I think it's a lot higher, to be honest with you. All right, because if it wasn't higher, they wouldn't be fighting to get our piece of the vote, even though minorities are more stable, dependable voters once they make a decision than pretty much any other group. But okay, if we act as a group, we cannot allow ourselves to be taken for granted, especially by the Democratic Party. Now, at the same time, the Republican Party, they need to work for our vote as well, and they can't come out with all their bullshit policies which we know are going to hurt us, and expect us to roll over and say, yeah, kick my ass, I'm going to vote for you so you can kick my ass. That's bullshit too. So they need to come to us with policies. And I don't want to hear that bullshit about pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, because I found out an interesting thing last night watching the Ted Cruz town hall meeting on CNN. When Ted Cruz went to, I guess, Princeton, Harvard, wherever, yeah, he went to Harvard, I guess. When he went to Princeton or Harvard, whichever one of those, and I believe it was Harvard, I'm sorry, I rambled. At that time, guess what? His parents filed bankruptcy. And he said that out of his own mouth. I don't call that pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. So they took advantage of the laws. They didn't act responsibly, apparently, and I do not know the details. But in order for them to have to take advantage of the U.S. bankruptcy laws, something funky had to have happened. So that pull yourself up by your bootstrap bullshit, I don't want to hear that anymore. But anyway, I've ranted enough. Now let's see what the, and I have not even watched this before, so let's see what the panel has to say about this situation.
There are a few questions I'd like to discuss with the panel. First, do you think Secretary Clinton's message is all talk, or is she really here to assist African Americans? And also, do you think that Armstrong Williams made a valid point?
I have to tell you, I completely agree with everything Armstrong Williams said. At least in the clips that we saw. I didn't see the entire speech, so let me just say, in the clips that were just played, and increasingly you are seeing more and more African Americans come to the conclusion that Republicans and Democrats alike take the issues of the African American community and just sort of poo-poo them. They know, Democrats know that they need our vote, but they also know that many African Americans aren't going to vote anywhere else, so your vote can be taken for granted. A lot of Republicans will say, we can't get the black vote, so why even bother? Force people to give you a reason to vote for them. I think it's critical, and with the Clintons, I thought her speech was good. I believe the comments that she made. I am of the belief that it has been all talk from Democratic leaders for many years, and what we have seen is that the plight of the African American community has not changed.
Dave?
I'm 100% with her on that one, and I have been saying that for a long time. You know, they talk the talk, but when it comes time to walking the walk, I don't see no footprints on the ground as far as the Democrats concerned. And the Republicans just feel like fuck the black community, even fuck the Hispanics. What their plan is to deny minorities the ability to vote, to gerrymander districts in order to stay in power for as long as they can. And with the browning of America, they see their time is short, but they're still doing everything they can in order to remain in power. That's why you have so many safe congressional districts, because of gerrymandering and because of all these bullshit new voter ID laws and voting rules. So, you know, I'm with her 100%. Shit needs to change, and it better change goddamn quick.
Yeah, so full disclosure first, I know Armstrong, I've been on Armstrong's show, I think we all know Armstrong.
Yes.
Look, he has a point. I agree with Michelle that at a minimum, all politicians in both parties should work hard for the African American vote, not take the African American vote for granted. That being said, I think he's arguing from a position of weakness because his critique is a critique of Democrats when Democrats are working, I would say, considerably harder for the African American vote right now than Republicans, and Armstrong is a Republican.
I'm not going to say working, I'm saying they're requesting considerably harder, because the Republicans, they don't even try to get our votes. You know, anytime they mention, the only guy that actually, I believe, was trying to get African American votes in the Republican Party was Rand Paul. Okay, I honestly believe, because, you know, he not only talked the talk, he walked the walk, and he went to the African American community, and he got shot at left and right, but he kept coming, and as a matter of fact, he's still working on it, even though he's dropped out. He's still going to the African American community. Is he 100%? No, he's not 100%. Is he 50? Maybe not 50, but damn, you know, most of these guys are not even 10%. So, you know, him being 40 is like basically night and day.
It's fair to say, look, the Clintons in the past have been inconsistent on race issues. There's been a lot of controversy about
Inconsistent, my ass. The Clintons are basically camouflage artists. They're camouflage artists. They have done things that have damaged the black community more so than anybody else. And I'm talking about Bush and, well, you know, Reagan. It might be a toss-up, because Reagan gave us hell. All right, but as far as actual things that specifically, I'm not talking about generally, I said specifically help the black community, hell to the no.
The 94 crime bill. There, in 2008, there were, allegations that they were playing the race card against President Obama, and I think in some case...
What allegations? They were playing the race card. Everybody knew it. In that 2008 election, Slick Willie, you know, he was playing the race card left and right, just like he played the race card against Jesse Jackson when he ran. So Slick Willie's is not an undercover brother. Slick Willie is an undercover dude that hangs out with dudes with the hoods. Just because he doesn't wear one, that don't mean he don't have similar leanings. But anyway, that's my opinion.
They did, whether it was, even if it was sort of subtle, they played the race card. But
and
right
continued
now,
to play it throughout his administration.
But right there, Secretary Clinton is giving a speech trying to earn the African American vote in front of an African American leadership group, and he's saying they have to win your vote, and she's sitting there trying to win the vote.
See, I don't want speeches. I want promises. I want promises of what you gonna do when you get in there, so that we can hold your goddamn feet to the fire when it comes time to collect on those promises.
And remember, in terms of his credibility, Ben Carson, I can't say, worked actively to get the African American vote. I mean, he came up with some sort of
worked actively to not get the
African American vote. Here's the thing that has to be realized about Armstrong's point. I think Armstrong made the right point, but his math was bad. This is why you have to show your work when you do math exams, because his standard line is, Race has nothing to do with this. And here's some data on some relevant issues that are impacting the African American community. When we look at wealth accumulation, when we look at unemployment, when we look at education, when we look at health care, all of these things, when you look at, for example, the average amount of white wealth is about $134,000 in a family. It's about $7,500 in the African American family. Wait a minute. When you look at the those are the wealth accumulation numbers on the screen there. You can look at education attainment. And when you look at education attainment, just in terms of bachelor degree, the unemployment rate nationwide, 5% African Americans is stated, and 9 we know it's higher than that. Bachelor's degrees, 72.9%. African Americans about 10.3%. All of these things are relevant political issues, and race, it's not an accident that we are disproportionately impacted by all of these issues. Armstrong, on that point, is dead wrong.
But Armstrong didn't say that race is never an issue. Armstrong said that race is not always the issue, and that's the important point, because not in every situation
never wants to discuss race as the factor in terms of the solution. That was Armstrong basically setting it up so you could make that statement.
Well, the same I just made is factual.
No, but
race is not always the issue.
Education,
it is the issue,
unemployment,
sometimes, but not always.
health care, wealth disparity. Look at what's happening in Chicago. Police shootings. We have to go way down the list before we get to a point to where we are not disproportionately impacted by these issues.
Real quick, Michelle.
Yeah.
I agree. Race is not always the issue, but that was not what I took away from what Armstrong said right there. He said race is not the issue here, but then he went on to talk about race. Sorry, Michelle. Yeah.
Let's get back to something
Well, quickly, because we have
Secretary Clinton. You know, she shows up at a black church. So all of a sudden she adopts a black dialect. I don't feel no ways tired.
President Obama did the same thing.
Exactly, and that's complete pandering to the black community.
But you know what? The fault for this, and we got to move on. The fault for this, to me, really comes down to the CBC and the CBC PAC, and the fact that they have not forced Hillary Clinton to commit to any tangible, workable solutions or policies before they gave her the endorsement.
Exactly. So, as I stated, all those Negroes in the, I'm not just going to say the CBC PAC, okay, but the majority of those Negroes in the Congressional Black Caucus basically jumped on the Clinton bandwagon and got nothing for it. Now, you had a couple that are supporting Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side. I don't know any members of the Congressional Black Caucus that are supporting any Republicans, though you might have two, one being Mia Love out of Utah and the other one being Tim Scott out of South Carolina. I know, and I'm not even sure that they're members of the Congressional Black Caucus. I know they were offered membership. I don't know if either of those two actually accepted. But again, we're right back to the beginning. Every 4 years, here they come, the Democrats, pandering like hell. And I've done several videos showing Hillary Clinton with the pandering, okay, and I haven't made any videos whatsoever, basically, of the Republicans doing any pandering to us. Now, they pander too, but they pander to their base. And obviously, we are not part of their base. So it's time for us to recognize pandering for what it is, for us to hold people's feet to the fire. It's time for us to get concrete promises of specific actions which are going to benefit our community and to help us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. But those bootstraps need to be reinforced. And a lot of the time, those bootstraps are cut, and we don't even know that they're cut before we start pulling on them. So people, get together. I'm going to listen to Clinton's speech in its entirety. It's up on YouTube. And I'm also going to listen to Sanders when he does his today.